listening to Let's Stay Together, a podcast about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
And today, did you know, last time I realized we didn't say anything, but that was our 10th episode. It's kind of a milestone, I guess. Woo! I don't know, I was excited. I was like, oh, 10 when I numbered it and then released it. Or like made notes for it, but we didn't talk about it.
It's a good number. Got a 0 on the end.
Yeah, it's good. We made it to, I don't know, how old are you when you're 10? We made it to like...
Did you say how old are you?
You're 10. I meant... I meant what grade are you in when you're 10? I was going to say we made it to like 4th grade or something. But I obviously never made it that far because I don't know how old you are when you're 10.
It's going well.
We should stop recording at night. That's the problem. If the sun goes down, all hell breaks loose in the recording studio. And by studio, I mean closet, in my case. So, I forgot to mention it last week. It's episode 10. We made it to episode 10 and beyond. So, that's nice, I think. It's pretty awesome. We also have almost 100 followers now on Tumblr. I haven't checked recently. I think it's like 95. I'm going to look right now. Mm-hmm. We have 94 followers now, which is exciting, I think. Yeah, I know. Almost 100. I'm surprised.
Everybody tell 6 friends.
Yeah. If everybody tells 6 friends, then that'll
collectively tell 6 friends.
Listen, I went to 4th grade. I mean, if everybody tells at least like, a third of a person, it'll be fine or something like that. Anyway, I just wanted to say we're getting close to hitting some milestones / hit a milestone in episodes. I thought it was nice. Also, I forgot to mention vocally that I have a new microphone, so if you're binge listening and the sound changes really drastically between 2 episodes because I got a new microphone, you're welcome. Now I can hear all my mouth sounds.
I didn't.
No, just kidding. You sound pretty good today. Sometimes Skype is a little weird, but I feel like you sound pretty good. So yeah, I wanted to say, I know it's been a little while and normally I try to just like get all this junk out of the way so we don't have a lot of updates or stuff, but I'm just going to throw it out there that if you're enjoying this podcast and you haven't yet, it's helpful if you like add a rating or review or subscribe or like follow the podcast like on Spotify if you're listening, or any other podcast platform of your choice. It is helpful and I think it helps people, find stuff that they're looking for. So, and your reviews and comments are all wonderful and of course much appreciated by us. Today we're discussing chapters 21 and 22 of the manga Fruits Basket. In case you didn't hear at the front that I said this is a Fruits Basket podcast.
You're like halfway through the episode going, what the hell is Fruits Basket?
Who is Shigure? We're going to do our summary, our regular discussion, and then our spoiler discussion. So if you haven't figured out by now that that's our format, that's also our format, so what we're going to do today. I guess it could be the first time you're listening to an episode, but hey, welcome to the podcast.
Maybe it's like huge Ayame fans and they're like, screw the rest of the series and just listen to the Ayame chapters.
I gotta wait till Ayame is here. Well, guess what? He's fucking here.
He's here.
Why didn't you swear?
I'm a good girl.
Right.
I think I'm actually the first one who swore on the podcast. So
really? Oh, I should go back.
And I said everything about Akito is deeply fucked. I think that was the first.
It's possible.
Because we weren't sure what we were going to do at that point, and I guess I made the decision for us.
Well, I don't know. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, I gotta figure out how to mark explicit on these, because I knew that it would be my choice to use swearing, so it's fine. Whatever. We're good. You mark that E, and it's fine. You listen at your discretion to my swearing Toru dialogue from, 3 episodes ago. All right. Anyway, let's actually talk about Ayame for all the people who are Ayame fans who are tuning in now and haven't been listening until now.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Chapter 21 opens. Toru is helping Yuki in the garden, which I thought was very sweet. She asks what will be ready to pick in May, and he says, turnips, carrots, chives, and strawberries, which of course is exciting for Toru. Toru says she can't wait, and Yuki says that he can't either, and he smiles his genuine smile. Toru sneezes conspicuously, although she didn't cough blood into a handkerchief delicately, so we know she's not going to die, as we had decided before. Yuki asks, not today. Yuki asks if she's okay, and she says yes, it's April, but it's still cold. Yuki suggests that she head home since there isn't much left to do, and she's about to protest, but then he also adds that he's hungry, I think it says his tummy rumbles or whatever. Isn't there a little like sound
Yeah,
effect?
just a little rumble.
On her way to the house, Toru thinks back to the other day. It's been several days since their surprise encounter with Kido at school, but Yuki has remained cheerful, and that's good. Her thoughts are interrupted when she sees a pile of clothes mysteriously on the ground. She kneels down and picks up the clothes and pauses, wondering why they might be there. It's curious. And still clutching the clothes, she looks up in shock and wonders, could it be another member of the Zodiac? It's it's really slow again. It's kind of like the ping pong scene from the hot spring adventure where it bounces and then she turns back and she's like, I missed. It's kind of, I felt like it was kind of the same pace. As she realizes this, something slithers up her leg. Yuki hears her scream from far away and comes to check on her. And when he finds her, he asks what's wrong and she stutters, and he's like, strawberries? Which is like also the same joke as earlier when she was like, and he was like, a fork or whatever. In that other episode, or that other whatever chapter. If you were wondering what he said, because I thought it was funny that he's like, strawberries? Like, Yuki, she's clearly not going to say strawberries. Like, why would you think that? In Japanese, she says na, and Yuki's like, na, which means vegetables, which is funny. Anyway, so it's just as silly, I guess.
What was she starting to say then?
Nani something. Like something, nanika is like something. Something's in my clothes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like nani is what, nanika is something. So, yes. Something's in my clothes, she says on that note. And at that moment, a white snake slithers out of the back of her dress. Yuki, Toru, and the snake share a stunned silence. At Shigure's house, we come back to Shigure's house, and Kyo grumbles that he's hungry, and he's like standing in the kitchen, like itching his gut or scratching his gut. I feel like he's done that a couple of times, and I keep noticing it, and I think it's weird and funny. Shigure assures him that Toru will be back soon. Kyo says that he'll make something for himself, and Shigure, of course, uses this as an opportunity for a prank.
Because Kyo is the only other person in the house who can feed himself.
Yeah, basically, Shigure is like, whatever, I'll just wait till Toru comes back or I'll die. I mean, it's like one or the other. Shigure says, here, have some of this, handing Kyo a bowl of all his favorite ingredients, miso, chives, and onions. And Kyo is like, or he's like, it'll hold you over until dinner time, and Kyo slaps the bowl out of Shigure's hand and screams, damn it, quit making fun of me. Fortunately, mostly for Kyo, the sound of the door slamming and hustled stomping heralds the return of Toru and Yuki. Shigure is surprised as the white snake from earlier is quickly thrust into his face. Skin him, barbecue the bastard, says Yuki, face full of rage. The snake the whole time that all this is happening has his little eyes closed, like it looks very chill. Aw yeah? Shigure asks. Yuki continues to strongly recommend skinning the snake, but Shigure gets him to calm down. Later, we see the snake kind of curled up on a cushion, and Shigure closes the door, and he introduces the snake as Ayame Soma, the snake of the Zodiac, and explains that when it's cold, he transforms, perhaps because snakes can't handle the cold and they hibernate in the winter.
Science note, they don't hibernate, they brumate.
What does that mean?
It's a slightly different form of dormancy that reptiles and amphibians do.
Can you say that again?
Brumate. Brumation.
Brumate? Not hibernate. Oh, today I learned. That's interesting.
They basically, like, they chill out for a long time, but sometimes it's sunny, so they get up and sun for a while, and then they go back and chill, and they have to get up and drink water and stuff. And, like, just sleeping all the way through the winter like mammals do.
This has been Animal Break with Kayla and Ellen. Should I tell them about hagfish? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's kind of like, I guess this is like how they transform when they're weak. This is the snake version of that. We had a little discussion on the blog about how rats have respiratory problems, and that it was maybe like a possibility that Takaya researched this and knew this and included it when building Yuki's character. Like maybe this is another one of those things. It's a little more direct that it's like in his snaky form, but yeah. Anyway, but I guess he does transform when he's like cold, when he's like from a human to a snake. Anyway.
Yeah, like he doesn't, it's not necessarily that he's like weak like other situations. It's strictly the cold for him. Like I'm sure he also transforms when he's weak, but
but it's like in addition to that also the cold.
Yeah.
Yes. So Shigure goes on to explain that he, Hatori, and Ayame are around the same age and they went to school together. And the three of them make up the one, the only Mabudachi Trio. By the way, did you ever... I never looked this up before, as far as I remember.
I did, like, just this week.
Yeah, me too. So, Mabudachi just means best friends. I don't know.
It's like old-fashioned slang for
Yeah.
Best friends, I guess.
Yeah, according to the internet, it's old-fashioned. And I just thought it was funny. Apparently it was like really trendy in like the like 80s and early 90s, which is of course like when this series was authored, so it makes sense. But yeah, I just think it's really funny. I was like, oh, how come we never looked this up before? Like, of all the things, just accepted it. So yeah, anyway, Mabudachi just means best friends. So Kyo is like, what does he mean by one and only? And Yuki is like, poor Hatori, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Shigure asks what Yuki was upset about, and Yuki says it's so disgusting that he doesn't even want to say. Shigure is like, come on, this is your big brother you're talking about. No one responds, of course, but half a beat behind Toru is like, eh. Like, there's another one of those, like, chibi panels. It's like another slow joke. Like, Takai's really hitting it on with this joke in this chapter.
She's enjoying the beat panels for this chapter.
And so am I, frankly, because all of them are funny and adorable. Like, the one where Toru's holding the clothes is, like, it's so cute.
Yeah. I like this one because there's, like, the only change is that her mouth drops open.
Yeah, it's really awesome. A puff sound from the other room signals that Ayame has transformed back to his human form. And we see his feet, the ruffle of clothing, and we hear the boisterous dialogue. Please allow me to explain myself. My body was extremely cold earlier. I was merely looking for warmth. When I sense someone with warm skin approaching, can you blame me if my survival instincts took over? The door slides open to reveal a tall, handsome, and light-haired man. Greetings, everyone, he says. Have you been well, little brother? Toru thinks that he looks like an older version of Yuki, which is true, I think.
If he had a haircut.
Yeah. Yuki sasses him, and Kyo is like, what did he do to you, to Toru? And I thought it was cute that they're, like, protecting her again. I made in my note that says, oh, they're protecting her again. Aw. So
Toru is wisely like, how do I say this without making him want to kill somebody?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my, Ayame says. Kyonkichi really is here. And Kyo is like, stop calling me that. Shigure and Ayame exchange greetings. They haven't seen each other since New Year's. You didn't cheat on me while we were apart, did you, Gure-san? Ayame says to Shigure. Why would I do something like that? Ah, yeah, he replies. I hope everyone's enjoying my Ayame voice acting. All right, they say in unison, and Yuki and Kyo are like, what's all right? I'm pretty sure they say, yosh, that's what's in the anime. Yeah. I didn't look it up, but anyway.
I remember that.
Yeah. It's unforgettable, this scene. Toru thinks, at least his personality is very different from Yuki-kun's. Ayame says that he came there to meet Toru, and they exchange greetings. He does, also when he, like, bows, he does, like, this sweeping bow with his arm. Like, his arm is different. Well, Ayame says. You must be the princess, the single flower that blooms in a house of filthy men, the captive princess. And Shigure is like, she's hardly captive. Yuki tells Ayame to stop making fun of Toru. And Ayame replies, how rude. I'm showing her respect. And then he promptly sits down and says, now, would her highness make some tea? And hurry up with lunch. And they're like, even Shigure is like, or Kyo and Yuki are like, that's not respect. Even Shigure says, oh yeah, you're treating her like a maid. And he's like, am I? Very well, take your time. Kyo is like, that's not what he meant. Yuki, his head and speech bubble, both covered with popping veins, says nothing. Ayame is like, what? You're so picky. Toru-kun, he says and stands up and takes her hand. Let's go out to eat. And they scamper off. She protests. He says not to worry, it's his treat. And they make a quick escape, leaving Shigure and Kyo and Yuki. And Kyo and Yuki glare.
And this is one of my favorite panels in the chapter, which is just this little tiny corner panel that has the sound effects as Ayame is dragging Toru away. Rattle, rattle, ha ha ha, slam.
I think it happens very similarly at the end when he leaves too. It's like, ha ha ha,
there's
slam.
There's like a... It's like a stomp, 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 ha ha ha, or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like every time he makes an exit, he's like, ha ha ha. It's great.
Yeah.
Shigure, Kyo and Yuki glare, and Shigure is like, it's no use getting mad at me. We cut to a Chinese restaurant where Ayame has taken Toru. And also, I guess, side note, as they're sitting down, the staff are like, is that a guy? I don't think so. So it's like the same like joke as Yuki, or like kind of like, I remember, the one that I remember is like when Yuki goes to visit Toru's family and the cousin is like, is he a guy? Like the whole time.
Yeah.
Ayame says that he will be having gyoza, and Toru is hesitant again. He turns to her and caresses her cheek, saying, are you saying you'll refuse food that I buy for you? And she's like, no, that's not what I meant. So then he, of course, orders gyoza for both of them. So she doesn't get a chance to get a word in edgewise.
She's like, it's all happening so fast.
Yeah. It's overwhelming. I think Ayame can be quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
Toru says that Yuki never said that he had a brother who was in the zodiac, and gasps and asks if Shigure and Kyo have siblings too. Ayame says no, they're both only children. And also he says it's not surprising that Yuki didn't say anything because they don't get along, or rather, they're not very close. He explains that he and Yuki are 10 years apart, and soon after Yuki was born, he was isolated because of his illness. It was so bad, Ayame says, I only remembered in passing that I even had a brother. I grew up doing whatever I wanted, and by the time I came around, there was a deep imposing rift between us, he says. Ayame goes on to explain that he came to Shigure's house to check on Yuki. Akido, as we saw in last chapter, is an object of terror for Yuki, and Ayame heard that Yuki saw Akido at school the other day. He was concerned that he was depressed recently. But when Ayame got to Shigure's, he found that Yuki was so cheerful. He goes on to say, to be honest, I was disappointed. I thought I might get a chance to be more of a big brother for him. Do you regret it? Toru asks. And Takaya, sometimes we come across these scenes where, like, I describe, like, and their face looked like this, and their face looked like that. But Takaya draws these faces that have so much mixed emotion sometimes, especially in these two chapters that we're talking about right now, that I was like, I don't know. So Ayame smiles this kind of dejected...
I would call it rueful.
Rueful, that's a good way to describe it. I said dejected, maybe nostalgic, smile. It's kind of like he's like reminiscing or something. It's kind of like it can't be helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think rueful is a good word. But yeah, there's so many. There's a couple of panels I'm just like, I don't know. It's like I understand what that... I feel an emotion looking at that face, but I can't describe it sometimes.
Yeah. Things you can you understand, like, on the, like, human empathetic level, but you can't quite put it into words.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing that she can do that with ink, I think. Like, just in general. He says, suddenly when you get older, the things you didn't understand when you were a child start to make sense. You start to understand rather than just regret. He says that makes him want to repent and erase the ignorant self from his childhood. Closing his eyes now and clasping his hands thoughtfully, he says, maybe that's what they mean when they say that adults are selfish. Did you notice how long his eyelashes are in this scene? They're so long. I just have to pause to say when I looked at his face. Just saying.
Maybe he's an eyelash viper.
Eyelash what? Viper? But yeah, they're so long. Toru says that her mom said, when you become a parent, you understand for the first time what a parent feels. But what you really need to understand and shouldn't forget is what it feels like to be a child. The first time you did a somersault, the first time someone got really mad at you. If you can remember how you felt when you were a child, even when you're an adult or a parent, then you can understand each other. Even if it's not 100%, you can meet each other halfway, she said. We see also that Toru's memory of her mother continues. She remembers her saying, thinking that way reminds you that life is fun. Toru snaps out of her memory and stutters, and with her fists clenched in a serious expression, she says that what she means is that Ayame and Yuki should meet halfway from now on. This is a great face, also. Then we see another kind of like ghosty silence panel on the next page, our ghost figure people, that indicates silence. And after that, Toru apologizes, and Ayame is like, don't be sorry. I was just thinking that was a beautiful thing to say, he says. Yes, my mom is the best in the universe, Toru replies excitedly. And while Toru glows, he thinks, actually, I was referring to you. Ayame says, now I see. I think I figured out why Yuki is so cheerful. It starts here for us, too. I guess I should try to think as you do. Please continue to honor your friendship with Yuki. Toru's eyes are wide, and we see her thoughts. At that time, Ayame-san was... But of course, this... As Takaya has wanted to do, the narration is cut, and then we cut back into another scene. The scene transitions to Toru arriving at home. Yuki greets her and asks if she's okay. I guess they've been worried about her. I don't know why they're so worried about her being with Ayame. I guess Yuki just doesn't... Well, I guess we'll get to it, but... Yuki immediately asks if she's okay, and that he asks if his brother caused her any trouble, and she says no, he treated her to gyoza. We see Kyo coming down the stairs as well, and Toru asks, Yuki-kun, do you hate your brother? And Yuki says, and she's like, sorry, I shouldn't have asked. He says, it's not so much hate. It's kind of a sore spot for me because I don't quite understand what he's thinking. And we see in a bubbly speech bubble, if it's a sore spot, we should heal it. We need to meet each other halfway, my little brother. And Toru, and especially Yuki, look a bit surprised as a determined-looking snaky Ayame appears from within Toru's dress again. His little face is adorable. It's got like little angry eyes.
I love how she draws like the chibi snake when she's not putting as much detail on it. It's just like scribbly lines that like aren't the same width apart or anything.
Yeah, it's really
like
funny.
a little bulb at the end. It's like, that's a snake.
Yeah, it's definitely a snake. Maybe more of a snack than a snake, but you know. It appears that the snake kind of like, that Ayame swirls kind of around Toru's head, and he explains that he transformed again in the cold. "You're not a brother or anything else to me," Yuki screams, and we hear the sound of a fight. The continuation.
I love in the panel where Toru is explaining that he got cold and transformed, and the snakes get too cold, they die. And then there's an Ayame visual going, because I'm a snake.
Yeah. Yes, it was really funny. We see a continuation of Toru's thoughts overlaid over Ayame with a satisfied and caring smile, like the smile that she was actually seeing at the Chinese restaurant, because it was cut off before. It was just like the bottom of his face or something. "Oh, Yuki-kun, if only you could have seen Ayame-san. He looked like an older brother, and he smiled." At the end of the chapter, Snakey Ayame, with little bandages, has curled up around Shigure's neck and asks where he may sleep tonight. That's the end of chapter 21. For once, Kyo is not getting beat up by Yuki. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
It must have been a nice break for him. All right.
Not for long, though.
No.
As we see at the very beginning of chapter 20.
Yeah. Chapter 22 begins with Kyo ignoring the beeping of an alarm clock. It's like 3 panels of beeping, which is awesome. Kyo slowly rolls over, and to his shock and horror, he discovers Ayame in bed with him. Ayame snuggles him close and says he's still sleeping, and Kyo is like, "I'll kill you!" And we see Ayame running off.
I think that's actually Toru startling awake.
Oh, hold on, let me look.
It looks like Toru's fangs.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I always thought it was Yame running away. That's really funny. That's even funnier. Yeah, they're wearing different clothes. I don't know why I never noticed that. Yeah, you're right. Toru like wakes up and she's like, "What?" Which is great. And the theme song plays. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
On the next page, we see them all sitting at the table. Ayame is covered in bandages, of course. He complains that it was his only choice. Yuki locked his door, and Shigure would have kept him up all night. And Shigure is like, no, not in front of the children. And Yuki is like, ignore, or whatever.
I have a side note about this page.
Yes.
What's with the bunny in the corner?
That is weird. I looked at it like 3 times, and I was like, what is this supposed to be? Like, yeah. It's very odd. I mean, it's the same texture from another chapter in this.
Yeah. And it's related to Momiji in the other chapter, which makes sense for bunny textures. I don't know if they just wanted to fill up a space. I don't know.
What I imagined in my head was the print that was on the bandage. That's my headcanon explanation for it. Yeah, it's a weird filler. Maybe there was something there in like maybe something needed to be there in the original print or something. Like an ad or like a barcode or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But then why fill it with a bunny? Like, it's very odd. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's very conspicuous. I wonder if it's like just a placeholder for something, but yeah, it is really bizarre though. Anyway, Kyo wants to know how long Ayame's planning to stay there, damn it. And Ayame responds, "Don't worry, I'll be staying in Torukun's room tonight." And Yuki and Kyo are both like, "Go home." We learn in Toru's monologue that it's been 3 days. So Ayame has been staying there for 3 days. And of course, because of that, the rift between he and Yuki has only gotten wider. Later at school, Toru is telling Haru Momiji about Ayame staying. And in yet another adorable chibi panel, Haru is holding up his finger to like let a butterfly land on it.
Yeah.
I looked at it for a long time too because I was like, is he like giving someone the finger? And then I was like, oh, there's a tiny butterfly there.
Like, I was like, fuck this butterfly.
I mean, with him, it could be either way. It's very difficult to tell. So, but yeah, the butterfly is there. And then there's like another, when Yuki walks by in like 2 seconds, which is what I'm about to say, the butterfly is still there, which is awesome. Anyway, later, so Momiji says that he'd like to go visit Ayame again, or he'd like to go see Ayame because he hasn't seen him since New Year's, but then he kind of backtracks and he's like, well, maybe I shouldn't get in the way of brothers bounding. And Haru corrects him too, bonding. And for those of you playing along at home, it's another mispronunciation pun on Momiji's part. Do you want me to tell you?
Like something about his like being bilingual.
I think so.
Like, so he mispronounces some things.
Yeah, I think it is. The more that I look at his dialogue, it's supposed to represent something about the way that he talks.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up to a chapter with Momiji soon. Like, next episode will include some backstory about Momiji. We should talk about it then. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Like his voice, his dialogue is really interesting to me. Like because of that, it has a lot of things that are written in a way that is like not the normal way you would write it, and he has this habit of pronouncing things incorrectly. And then in this case, Haru corrects him, which is funny.
Yeah. I kind of get the impression that he learned German first and then Japanese, which is kind of interesting.
It is very interesting.
Like the way he's shown speaking makes it seem like German is his native language, like because he like slips into it and mispronounces his Japanese.
It's certainly implied that that's the case, for sure.
Which is kind of interesting. You think they'd have with so many children, like.
Especially because I mean, who knows? I don't know. We don't know that much about him at this point. Like maybe he didn't live in Japan.
Yeah.
I think he says that he currently lives inside, but I'm not sure if he lived outside before or lived in Germany or something before. It's not necessarily clear at this point. But yeah. Anyway, I do think it's something about his character. It's something that I never noticed before. It's very prominent. Anyway, so yeah, he makes
I think when I was first reading it through, I assumed they were just like weird translations of Japanese puns, but since it's consistently mispronunciations and only with Momiji, it seems like a character trait rather than a
I think so.
fun thing.
I think you're right. I never really noticed it. I have to say, I didn't pay that close attention to his dialogue, but then when I started trying to like look for those puns, now I see it a lot more. So it's cool. I don't know. I feel like I learned something. I learned about snakes and I learned about Momiji's dialogue. I learned about Japanese. So nice. Anyway, Momiji asks how Yuki's doing. And on cue, Yuki passes in front of them, sort of like slumped over, and the three stare. The butterfly hovers in the background. Momiji asks if he's sick, and Toru is like, and Haru stands up and he's like, I see. Really? Yeah. Okay. And Toru, I think doesn't she look at him with a little like question mark?
Just got a question mark dialogue bubble.
Momiji asks if it's okay for Ayame to leave his shop for so long, and Toru asks about the shop. Haru says that he sells outfits for nurses and stewardesses and maids and stuff. Silent ghost figures again show us at the moment of silence that passes between Toru and Haru and Momiji. And eventually Toru asks, he sells dresses? Question mark. Haru isn't sure. Momiji says that Aya says that he sells romance.
There's also a little note next to that panel that says, out of the council of three comes wisdom.
Yes! Sorry, I forgot to write that down. Yeah, it's so good. I think it's really funny that they're so naive about it.
Yeah.
It's really great. Later at Shigure's, the gang returns from school. Shigure and Ayame are looking at a photo album from their school days. Wow, Toru says. She thinks to herself, Hatori and Shigure look so young, and Ayame looks just like Yuki, which is true. Like, it's really interesting how the drawing is so specific that you can tell that it looks like Yuki, which is really cool.
Yeah, especially like that side view one at the bottom of the page.
Yeah. Toru comments on his long hair, and Ayame says, of course, yes, he kept it long, but it was against school rules. Yuki refuses to look at the photos, and so Ayame decides that the next logical step is to explain why he was able to keep his long hair. We see a flashback. It's just after their high school orientation, and the principal has called him in to tell him that he needs to have his hair cut by tomorrow, and that he'll call the head of the family if he doesn't. I come from a royal family, Ayame responds. The principal is like, huh? And he says, I've been hiding it until now, but there's a country to which I must return. What? Says the principal. Ayame says, if you must know, my hair has to be long because it is said that the first king, the Honorable Rurubara-sama, received a message when he was the age of 4. It was from Kandora-sama, who illuminates the 4 directions with gold and red light. And when Kandora-sama chanted, Maruru Mani, his forehead shone with a blue light, and like a pony struck by a whip, Rurubara-sama's honorable person was liberated, and with a wave of warm compassion, like the trees that bend in a light breeze, his supple tresses grew. Now, meanwhile, Kashiparu-sama was in his chamber sleeping peacefully like a flower waiting to bud. It gave his voice to the pain that was in his heart. Kampaniru. Kampaniru in the tongue of my people means, come forth, ocean of God's power. Go forth, veneration. The principal is like, just.
I really like when the principal's like, I have to be somewhere, and Hayame grabs him by the shoulders like, I'm not done explaining about Kandora-sama.
Yeah. He's like, okay, you can have long hair. And then Ayame continues in the present. And so, with that explanation, I was allowed to have long hair, which is awesome.
And Toru's like, you're from a royal family?
Yeah. Kyo's like, of course he was lying. It's so great. Yuki is like, I can't believe it. And Shigure is like, you want to hear something even more unbelievable? Aya was student body president. Of course, Ayame was incredibly good-looking and popular. While he was president, he made school fun, and we see a photo of him in a fabulous leopard print coat, and Hatori sassing him. He's like, let's go. Yuki looks surprised. Shigure says he had a knack for it. Ayame says he thinks Hatori would have been a better president. Then, they regale the children with the tale of that time on a school trip when some of the students went into a red light district. The chibi sketch of the trio is like, it's so great. Kyo and Yuki's souls are like flying out of their bodies, and Toru has like these big shocked eyes. It's really awesome. The students, of course, got in trouble, almost getting expelled, but a meeting was called with the teachers, the parents, and the students. And of course, Ayame, as the student body president, spoke up in their defense. And now I return to the manga to read you another excerpt. They set forth in the red light district as minors. Not a laudable action. Rules are made to be followed, it said. If they are not, order is lost. However, if all sexual desire is denied, is it evil if we can't help but to regret it? Because humans bear the responsibility of multiplying and replenishing the earth, I believe that sexual desire is in part a desire to fulfill that obligation. Is that something to be ashamed of? Is it a sin? And there's like a little girl in the corner who's like, President. The principal and some other teacher, the principal's thinking, Ayame-kun, you're unusually serious today. And the teacher is like, so he was just playing dumb all this time. Ayame continues, therefore, here and now I make a proposal. To the underage youths who carry these carnal desires, to those who have no place within our vague rules, let us extend a hand of salvation. From now on, direct your passions at me. As the elected representative of the Student Body Council, it is only a matter, of course, that I should shoulder all of their carnal desires. Furthermore, if it comes from other men, then even their guardians should be relieved. Now please, lust after me. And all the students who have been like in this like shining light or whatever, the way they're drawn, all respond, of course we will. Ayame continues to shout, if it comes down to attack or accept, I choose to accept. And the two teachers stand up and they're like, you idiot! And they start to drag him off, and they're like, he really is such an idiot. And while they're dragging him off, Ayame is like, no need to worry, Hatori. I may appear fragile, but I'm in control. And Hatori is like, ... Oh, I enjoyed that. Was story time with Ellen. Yeah. And Ayame, back in the present, of course, Ayame says, and so goes my wonderful story. Kyo sasses him, and Ayame says, thanks to that incident, everyone was saved from expulsion. And Kyo was like, how? And Shigure reveals that, of course, Hatori stepped in to help and bailed everybody out after Ayame was dragged out. In 2 extra sparkly panels, Ayame asks Yuki what he thinks. Yuki smiles and calmly replies, get out. And Toru is like, the rift, or whatever in the background. They argue. Kyo and or Yuki are like sassing Shigure to get Ayame to leave, and Shigure says there's generally only one person that he'll listen to. And of course, on cue, again, Hatori arrives to collect Ayame and take him home. He says that Haru asked him to come get Ayame, and Ayame immediately stands up and takes off with Hatori, without question. Farewell, my friends, he says in a bubbly voice, and ha 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 is his way out of the door, leaving Shigure, Kyo, Yuki, and Toru in his wake. What the hell? Kyo wonders. Shigure tells
also want to note that Ayame offers to drive.
Yeah.
His apology, and Hatori doesn't let him, and I'm not sure which one I'd rather drive me. Hatori, who has no depth perception and peripheral vision, or Ayame, who's Ayame.
Yeah, I know. A good question. Hatori is supposed to be the responsible one, but yet he is half blind, so yeah. A good question indeed. This is like kind of those like, would you rather? Like, yeah. So outside, Shigure tells us that Ayame looks up to Hatori, that he loves Hatori and admires him. Outside, Ayame apologizes for causing Hatori trouble, and he's like, well, then you shouldn't do that stuff, basically. Ayame says he just can't get Yuki to open up, and Hatori tells him not to rush. Yuki's still a child, and there are a lot of things that he can't give up yet. Ayame says that Toru resembles Hatori, and she spends her energy helping other people. I'm really bad at that sort of thing, he says, smiling. Ayame wonders, how is it that Hatori always says what Ayame wants to say, and he remembers the words, there's no rush. Later that day, I'm guessing, Yuki's helping Toru with the dishes, and then we see them kind of like mid-conversation. Toru says, but Ayame's stories are funny, and Yuki is like, he's hopeless. Toru struggles to think of something else to say, and meanwhile she's thinking, the rift. But Yuki continues, but to stick up for other people at his own expense, I guess that's pretty cool. Toru looks at Yuki and then she looks at Kyo, whose back is to them, and smiles. We see the narration overlaid. You should try to meet each other halfway. We cut to school the next morning where Yuki finds Haru, and he says, "You looked out for me the other day. Thank you." Haru smiles, a big bright smile as well. And we see that narration ends. So the narration before said you should try to meet each other halfway, and then we see the end of that thought. Thinking that way is more fun. We see a tribute panel at the bottom of the page showing Toru, Uo, and Hana eating lunch. And Toru asks, she's like, "Oh, I forgot." She asks Uo and Hana what kind of shop sells nurse and maid outfits. And that's the end of the chapter. I feel tired just talking in Ayame's voice. I don't know how he can, live his life that way.
An open discussion with you guys. I love Ayame so much.
That's a good way to start. I feel like maybe my true personality is kind of like Yuki or Hatori's, so I feel like in real life I would be like, please don't, but I do.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he'd be exhausting in real life.
He's also I think that he's very kind and genuine. He's just trying to make up for. He feels like he's trying to make up for lost time with Yuki, right?
Mm-hmm. He's very true to himself, and he's very aware of his own flaws.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
It's in some ways he's kind of if you consider that sort of emotional maturity, he at least understands what his flaws are and the things that he's done in his life that he wants to make up for. He's way ahead of some of the other Zodiac members, I feel like, and kind of what they're dealing with in their emotions. So
yeah, he's not very mature in the classic sense, but I think he's very emotionally mature, like you said.
Very I think empathetic. He just overdoes it. It's kind of like Kagura too, to a certain extent. It's his way of dealing with stuff, and he hasn't learned another way yet. But he knows that that's I don't know if Kagura knows it's a problem, but he knows that it's a problem, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to connect with his brother.
Yeah, but I just always kind of enjoy characters who just kind of bowl everyone over with their personality, just by who they are.
Yes, he definitely shakes things up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to. Do we learn anything about the curse, regarding, I guess, Ayame and his transformation? So, I mean, we kind of talked about it,
Yeah, just kind of more of how their animal aspects can kind of manifest, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of. It manifests when he's in his human form as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not unlike Yuki with his bronchial tubes.
Yeah, because even they've got the panel where he's got the fabulous coat on. It's just he wore coats in winter. So.
Yeah, to be warm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he wanted to look fabulous, of course.
Obviously.
Did you know? I don't know if this has anything to do, and I didn't make a note about it, but did you know that white snakes in Japanese folklore are supposed to be the messengers of the gods?
Also a classic rock band.
Yes, of course. Isn't it one word? Or is it two?
Yes.
Yeah.
White snake.
Also, I googled white snake, and of course there's lots of cute photos of white snakes. In Japanese culture, the white snake often appears at the headdress. There's a specific goddess that has a white snake on her headdress. Benzai Ten. I don't know anything about this goddess. I just saw this while I was looking this up. As the goddess of fertility, wealth, and good fortune, Benzai Ten appears with a white snake as her messenger. Some believe that white snakes are messengers to the human world, shapeshifters that can move easily between heaven and the underworld, and since it can shed its skin, the snake is believed to symbolically live for thousands of years. It's widely believed that when a human encounters a snake, especially a white one, it's an extremely lucky omen. That's from one reference. I will attach it in the episode notes. But yeah, there's a white snake that appears in Kami-sama Kiss, or Kami-sama Jumashite, which is where I learned this fun fact. So yeah. So anyway, the white snakes have this kind of connotation of that type of symbolism. So anyway, I don't know, just throwing that out there. It's a fun fact. I don't think there's anything in particular. I guess it's just kind of part of his zodiac form. Ayame's snaky form is really cute, and you were right, the way that she draws him is really funny sometimes. It's just his little head or whatever. I think one thing to discuss is that Yuki, we know that Yuki was isolated when he was younger, and we saw that Akito said that Akito would maybe have to teach Yuki a lesson by putting him in the special room just for him last time. I wonder if Ayame says that Yuki was isolated because of his illness. So I wonder if he knows about that, or if he just thinks that Yuki was being isolated because of his illness, or maybe it was a little bit of both. I don't know. Maybe Yuki was isolated and also he was maybe being abused by Akito as well, as we saw, it is alluded to in the last chapter that we read. But for sure they didn't have a good relationship and they weren't close. It seems like they were physically separated too. I guess another like kind of random thing. Well, not really going through these topics in any good order today, but I also like how Yuki and Toru do chores together.
That's cute.
They were like working in the garden, and then he was helping her with the dishes. It was very charming. It's something I also never really noticed before.
Well, I do think we can put the idea of meeting each other halfway under our little themes section of the series.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Especially it's introduced with the whole thing with Ayame and Yuki, but it's, Toru obviously kind of thinks of it in terms of Yuki and Kyo toward the end of the chapters.
Yeah, she has that, and there's one panel of him.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the last time it's going to be a theme.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it will be the last time. Basically, like, I'm sticking with my theory of, like, whenever Toru's mom is there, that's a theme. That's, like, it's like Takaya saying, like, here is... So she almost, like, uses Toru's mom to pepper in this, like, meta information about this theme. So pretty much every time we see her, she's always saying something that's kind of, like... If it's, like, some wisdom from Toru's mom, it's almost always a theme, right? So, yeah, I agree with you. I think in this case, based on what we've seen so far, there's sufficient evidence to support that. There's a lot of... I mean, this chapter, I feel like this one was also... kind of there's a lot of like slapstick. There's a lot of stuff that happened though. Like there was a part where I was writing notes. I just got kind of like when Ayame or when Hatori comes to pick Ayame up, it was kind of like whiplash. Like like they're like, get him out of here, and then Hatori shows up, and then Ayame leaves, and then Shigure is like, oh, Ayame, the only person Ayame will listen to is Hatori. And then they're outside, and Ayame is like, how does he always know what I want to say, what I need to hear him say, or whatever? Like, it was like, it was so fast. It was a lot of information to squeeze in, like, several pages. So we saw a lot about Ayame's relationships with a bunch of people very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, he obviously has a close relationship with Shigure. They're, like, BFFs, as they said, Mabudachi. Yeah. And he has this really intense respect and admiration of Hatori. And then he has Yuki, and he... basically don't have a relationship at this point. It's one of estrangement, it seems, at least. Although it's sort of at the end of the chapter, Yuki came around a little bit, and I think Ayame understands a lot of things about Yuki, but maybe Yuki doesn't understand Ayame. Like, it almost shows how he's a little bit more mature, kind of like what we just talked about. Yeah, he's just trying to... I guess what he doesn't understand is like how to connect with him. Like maybe he knows a little bit of what Yuki's feeling. It's like how Toru said, like, in that moment he looked like an older brother. Yeah. I think we might be able to interpret that. That might be stepping outside of what's in the text, but it seems like he kind of gets Yuki. He wants something that Yuki's not ready to give him. And then, of course, like, they have this... Kyo, he has this funny relationship with Kyo, which is, of course, like, one of sort of, like, animosity, but more, like, joking animosity. So he comes on and he's like, oh, Kyokichi's here. And he's like, don't call me that, which is great.
It obviously implies that this is a conversation that's happened before.
Clearly, yeah. So there you go. I don't know. It's a little bit about Ayame. And then I think he, in that conversation that he had with Toru, or like he said to Hatori that Toru is kind of like him, like maybe he's developing some respect and admiration for her too. I also like the way that he said, the way it's translated is like, please continue to honor your friendship with Yuki, and I thought that was really nice. Like, he recognizes that it's something that she cherishes. Yeah. So it was interesting. Even though it's all like fun and games, and Ayame's really funny, and he's big and boisterous, like you said, and exciting. There was a lot of like little character development, which was nice too. We finally met him. Oh yeah, if you were paying attention, they mentioned Aya in one chapter, and then we saw the back of his head when they were talking about Hatori, about his seahorse zodiac.
He's one of the ones. He's the other one there with Shigure teasing him about it.
And if you weren't listening to spoilers before, we did talk about this already twice in the spoilers, that it's Ayame, and we're like, I can't wait for him to show up. And now he's finally here, which is nice. The Mabudachi Trio is reunited. The only Mabudachi Trio is reunited. So great. Yeah. Oh, I guess another thing is that we also learned that Ayame has a shop.
Oh, yeah.
And we heard...
He sells romance.
Yeah, he sells romance. AKA cosplay outfits. That scene with Momiji and Haru and Toru is like the best. Momiji said that Ayame lives outside as well, so we know he doesn't live in the main house.
Yeah.
So that's some other stuff we learned. I don't know. I feel like we just got like a chock full of knowledge about Ayame. So welcome to the party.
It was an Ayame bomb.
Yeah, it was definitely a bomb. I don't have any other non-spoilery things to say.
Nope.
It's kind of short. I mean, like, it's like when Kakura showed up, it was all like, here's Kakura, that's who she is, you know? So it's the same with Ayame. We'll just see more of him. So that's a wrap for now. Unless you stick around, I will play music and then we'll talk about spoilers. Next episode, we're going to talk about chapters 23 and 24. You can find us at staytogetherpodcast.com, Stay Together Podcast on Tumblr, Stay Together Pod on Twitter. You can also email us. And thank you for listening and for all your support and always spreading the word and writing and reviewing. It's really awesome that we can connect this way.
Everyone tell 1/3 of a friend or whatever the math is.
What's like 93 divided by 6? Wait, 6 divided by 95? God damn it. I came here to talk, not do math.
Like, I went to art school, damn it.
I did. I have a degree in colors and shit. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, we're back to talk about spoilers. I had a couple of things that I wanted to say, I guess.
Things.
So there's a part where Ayame says, I can't really explain it, but Akito is an object of terror for Yuki. And so I'm like, I wonder if he knew what Akito was doing. I mean, like, he knew what Akito was doing to Yuki, right? Like, at this point, don't he, Shigure, and everybody know what was going on with Yuki? Isn't that why?
I think they know now. I'm not sure if everyone knew at the time.
He definitely didn't know at the time. I think there's like a scene where it's like baby Yuki being like, please help me to Ayame, and Ayame like brushes him off, and I think that's like what he's trying to quote unquote repent for. Yeah. Right.
I think the I can't really explain it may have been like I can't really put into words how like, Yuki feels about Akito.
Or I can't tell you, maybe. That's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah, I think he knows what happened now anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least to some degree. I don't know if anyone knows exactly how bad it was.
Probably not. I mean, like, they probably also, like, they can't know how Yuki felt, right? Like, it doesn't matter, especially not Ayame, so, because he's kind, but he doesn't understand Yuki's perspective. So, yeah, I don't know if any of them know exactly what was going on. But, yeah, I thought it was interesting how he's like, well, I can't really explain. But he did come to check on Yuki, which was nice.
Yeah, sweet.
I also thought it was interesting after the long hair story. The principal's like, well, I'll call the head of the family. And I was like, is he going to call, like, Akito, who's, like, 6? But then I was wondering if maybe Akira is still alive. I can't remember when Akito's father died.
He probably was at that point.
I think he might have been. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Akito was young, but still, like, old enough to remember that time.
Yeah, you're right, I think. I just thought it was interesting. In my head, I imagined him calling baby Akito.
Yeah.
And being like...
Yeah, I never really thought about it. I remember I was looking at it in passing. I was like, do they mean, like, the head of the whole family or, like, his parents?
Who knows? I don't know. I mean, like... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they know. Like, didn't they go to a fancy private school or whatever? Maybe they know that there's a head of the family or something. Like, I'm not really sure. Maybe they had to have some chat with the school about his hair in the first place. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that he specifically said that.
Yeah.
And then I imagined it being baby Akito. That's really funny. But I think Akira was probably still alive back then.
Baby Akito's like on the phone with the principal going, fuck you.
This world is black, goddammit, says Akito. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting as a random like side note. But I'm trying to think if there's any other spoilery things.
I mean, there's a lot of little things that get developed more later. Ayame and Yuki's relationship. So you get more of the backstory and more of them, learning about each other and figuring each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get kind of more of the backstory for Ayame and Hatori.
Yep.
Too. Yeah.
And there's just like more scenes of them that show their relationships too.
Yeah. They have little stuff with the Kana stuff later on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
The one who was like telling them about the wedding and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, and we go to Ayame's shop eventually.
Yes, I didn't want to say it, but Yes, we go to Ayame's shop, and then we'll get to meet Mine, which will be fun.
Okay.
Yeah. They're all good. They're all good characters. I don't know.
Yeah. I also like that we get that Ayame was the student body president, and we know Yuki's going to wind up being the student body president, which I think they actually talk about in one of their chapters.
And I also think it's interesting how Yuki, he reacted to that kind of strongly.
Mm-hmm.
He, like, lifted his head or something. Like, his head was in his hand, and he, like, looked up like he was shocked. Like, I wonder if he was thinking about it back then, that he might try to be student body president or something. Or, like, I don't know. Like, there's something about that connects with him, and he's shocked about it.
Yeah. I think it's part of, like he says, he kind of respects, at the end of the chapter, he kind of respects that Ayame is willing to, like, put himself on the line to, you know, kind of look out for people that he's responsible for. Mm-hmm. So I think he kind of admires that trait in Ayame, and I think that's something he, like, tries to exhibit when he's student body president.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's also something that he just kind of, I think that's, like, part of maybe his, like, you know, world view. Like, he's kind of like that.
It's just something he respects.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Like, Yuki, I mean, obviously he has a lot of emotional struggles, but I think that he's always trying to, like, do the best thing that he can do, right? So I feel like he probably admires that in Ayame, too. Mm-hmm. Something that he values. I feel like that's kind of it. Mm-hmm. It's all about Ayame all the time. Yeah. It was fun, though.
He needed 2 whole chapters to himself. He's just that big.
He definitely did. Yeah. I like how he stayed there for like 3 days or 4 days. I was like, oh my god. I've never had someone invite myself. Even Shigure, I think, was a little bit like, what, you're going to stay here? And like, Shigure is nominally his friend. So he's probably his like best friend other than Hatori. So yeah, I don't know. He's great. It was great. It was good chapters. It was funny. We're going to need it because the next 2 are going to be real sad. So you guys are in the spoilers, so we can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone was like, are we ready to cry for the Hatori chapter? But the next one is my big crying chapter.
Yeah, I was thinking it's more intense, I think, even than the Hatori chapter. So everybody get ready for next week.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be great. I think it'll be cathartic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
All right. I've run out of spoilers to say about Ayame, so I guess this is it for now.
Slam.
Scuttle, stomp, stomp, stomp. Ha ha ha, slam.
It's the ending of our episode.
Okay. I already said all the stuff where you can find us, so I won't bother you with that again. But thank you all for listening once again, and we'll see you next week. Bring your tissues.
Everyone staying for the spoilers has to review us twice.
Yes. Rate, review, and subscribe. And then also rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes.
Ha 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 ha. Slam. All right. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.